All right, welcome back to another episode of Sean and Ed's Do Baseball.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Ed's.
And we are bringing you baseball history.
That's right, we're a bi-weekly baseball history podcast where the story catcher doesn't know what the story pitcher is out on the mound throwing them.
And that makes everything more fun and more dangerous.
And more interesting. And I get to strap on the tools of ignorance today and listen to Sean tell me a story from the history of our favorite game.
100%. Take a little break from regular everyday life baseball and talk about some, fun history, some obscure history, Edsy, for sure. But before we get into it, where can people find us on the internet?
People can find us on the internet, or World Wide Web, as we've been calling it sometimes. At doing.baseball or at doing baseball. If you want to look us up on the internet, you'll find us at one of those two platforms. You can chime in on the conversation, give us a story idea, and just say hi. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, give us a review, give us a rating, share with your friends, anything you can do to help the pod, spread some baseball history. And you can also find our favorite beer, but our favorite sponsor as well on the internet, on the World Wide Web, as well at Two Loons Brewing. You can check them out, and if you check them out, you're going to see they have a brand new bottle shop, open now, 122 Brock Avenue in Toronto, over in the Parkdale area. If you're in Toronto, go check them out, go support them in person, great beverages, and if you're in Ontario, go into LCBO or your beer store or your local watering hole, ask for a Two Loons. And, of course,
please be of legal drinking age and, of course, enjoy responsibly.
All right.
We did it.
We are here. Do you remember what the hint I gave you was?
Oh, off the top of my head, not specifically, but I do remember you saying that this will be a fun story that I will not want to hug my family after.
Yeah. I mean, I assume you just hug your family just regularly.
I do, but, not directly after I hear a sad baseball history story from you. I don't always do that, but sometimes, as our great friend JP once said, I do feel like doing that after hearing some of the stories that you tell me.
Yeah, well, this one is surprising that this man lives as long as he does. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
This is a screwball episode. Let's put it that way. This is a funky, gonna break in different directions. But the hint I did say was if you've listened to our Sulphur Dell episode, which was my last one I recorded, this guy was one of our favorite names.
Right, yes, you did mention that this character came up in the last episode. So thank you for connecting the DNA as I will say. I watched Jurassic Park recently. Anyway.
Love it. Okay, I'm cracking one, and we're going to get going. We're going to start. This is not it is the name you heard, but it's the real name, which is even better. Cletus Poffenberger.
All right. Hall of Fame of names right off the bat. So
right off the bat.
Did he shorten it to Cleet? I don't remember. I don't remember.
He goes by a nickname or a pseudonym. He will get to that. But Cletus Poffenberger was born July 1st, 1915 in Williamsport, Maryland. So not the Little League World Series Williamsport, but Maryland one. It's a tiny town. It's a tiny town on the West Virginia-Maryland border along the Potomac River. It's about 75 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. His parents were Charles and Sophia Poffenberger. Cletus was named after his grandfather and would get a little sister born about a year after him. But 4 years later, his parents divorced, and he never had a real relationship with his father. He grew up in the 1920s, which meant that he basically raised himself. It sounds like Sophia was a little bit of a party animal herself, but he lived in a house with.
It was the Roaring '20s.
Sure, 100%. Well, it sounds like she was partying till her last day.
She was roaring for decades, is what you're telling me.
For decades.
Okay.
He roamed the Maryland countryside, hunting and fishing as a young man, and as you could guess, he finished with a 7th or 8th grade education at best.
Okay.
So he comes of age during the Depression. He joins the Civilian Conservation Corps, and as a teen, he cuts down trees and clears land for $30 a month, $25 of which was sent back to his mother, Sophia.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound much like he's conserving anything.
No, he's like 16 years old. He's making $30. Like, he doesn't need much. He's lodged. He's working all day. And what are you spending? Are you gambling with squirrels? Like,
well, that's not really what I was saying. Is that you said he worked for conservation? It sounded like he was clear cutting forests, which is.
Well, I believe the Civilian Conservation Corps is one of those like New Deal things where they just like give a bunch of people jobs to like go do, public works. So, maybe he's clearing room for highways and railroads and all of that stuff as well.
Okay.
So,
okay.
It's conservation in the fact that you're in nature. I don't think they're actually conserving much.
Okay.
Swinging an axe for a meager wage was not his destiny for long, though. Just like many small towns, his had a baseball team, the Williamsport Wildcats, and Cletus made an impression from a young age. His uncle taught him how to pitch and was one of the coaches of the team. Billy Doyle, the legendary scout from the Detroit Tigers, who had signed legends such as Branch Rickey, George Sisler, and Hank Greenberg, came across Poffenberger and signed him as a teenager to play outfield.
Okay. I imagine swinging the axe would, translate to swinging a baseball bat fairly well.
Yeah, and we'll get to it, but he doesn't stay an outfielder for long, though. And he also doesn't keep his name for long, though, because throughout Poffenberger's pro career, he was never known as Cletus, but instead went by the moniker Boots.
I remember now. I like it. Boots Poffenberger.
100%.
Okay.
I think it was from his family. I think his family, or he had like a grandfather or somebody, like his dad might have been Boots, or his uncle or his grandpa went by Boots. But he always went by Boots. And the reason for that is he once said of his real name, and I quote, "How in the hell could I sign my autograph to a baseball with a name like that and make it look any good?"
Okay. Well, I don't know if he really improved it that much, but anyway, in that regard. I could see if he dropped the Poffenberger or something, but
well,
is Cletus
funny you say that.
Okay.
Well, in his first year, he's sent by the Tigers to Charleroi, Pennsylvania, in the Class D Penn State Association, and he played under the name Cletus Zimmerman, which was his mom's original last name.
Okay.
But the next year, he's back to Boots Poffenberger.
Okay.
And that's
flipping around.
Yeah, and so if you look up Boots Poffenberger, you're not going to see the Class D Penn State League Association because he went as Zimmerman. But the next year he goes to the Fielddale Towlers in the Class D Bi-State League and officially begins his pro career as Boots Poffenberger.
Mm-hmm. What was the team name?
Fielddale Towlers.
Okay. I assume their team slogan was "Don't forget to bring a towel."
We're always dry.
Yeah.
He did hit well. He hits 288, but he stands out on the pitcher's mound instead of the outfield for the most part. His biggest accomplishment was defeating the Mount Airy Reds in both games of a doubleheader. And in total, he throws 241 innings that year with a 16-15 record on the bump. Pro ball gave Boots more than he could have expected otherwise. Remember, this guy does not even have a high school education. Even in the low minor leagues, he said, and I quote, "When I pitched at Fielddale, I made $65 a month, and it was like all the money in the world."
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, you probably wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot by today's standards, but $65 went a much further way, and yeah, you wouldn't be able to scratch that much money together, I would imagine, with
and remember,
such a low education.
And he was getting $35 in the conservation corps or whatever, right? So
right.
He's literally doubled his salary,
and
he's 18, 19, right? He's making fairly decent money for that age. I would associate it with an 18, 19-year-old going from making 25 grand to making 50, right? Like it's not a lot, but it is for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at 20 years old, he goes to Class C Charleston, the Charleston Senators of the West Virginia, and he's now making $125 a month. And he is now a full-time pitcher. He's 20 years old, and he puts up a 2.75 ERA in 255 innings, which is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he's doubled his salary again, so he's balling.
Yeah. He's balling.
He's
5 foot. He's 5'10", about 178 pounds, though not for long. Right-hander. He's a right-hander with a unique kind of short arm delivery. He really kind of just gets his arm up there. It doesn't really wind up too much. Very little wind up. He really kind of crosses his body as he throws as well. So he's got a funky short arm delivery. He never is a big strikeout guy, but when the ball left his hand, it had a natural sink to it that resulted in a lot of weak contact and a lot of ground balls. Charleston also was the place where his biographer, Austin Jisrael, I think it's Jisrael, Austin, if I'm messing up your name, I'm so sorry, because Austin wrote the Sabre bio and did a lot of heavy lifting for this episode, including a whole bio book that I read most of. And I'll put from the Sabre bio, Austin said, and I quote, "Boots gained a reputation as an eccentric and a playboy." So,
I mean, with a name like Boots, you'd have to be knocking them together.
Yes. So I say this is the way, a euphemistic way of saying that he was a childish, drunken womanizer who would disappear from the team occasionally.
All right. That was a very diplomatic way of saying that.
Oh, we get less diplomatic as we go here, for sure. At 21, the young pitcher was sent to the Beaumont Exporters in the Texas League. He was the youngest pitcher on the team and dominated his opponents, putting up a 9-1 record with a 2.50 ERA in 14 games, which included 10 complete games by June.
Okay, so, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and now everyone's like, wow, speculation is running amok, especially in his hometown. Everyone's like, could he make it to the big leagues? And he does. The 1937 Tigers were hit hard by the injury bug. Player manager Mickey Cochran had been hit in the noggin in May, and star pitcher Schoolboy Rowe was falling apart at just 27 years of age. The team had won the World Series in 1935, but finished second in 1936. They were flirting with a .500 record at the beginning of June and needed some reinforcements. Young Boots was not the team's first choice. his teammate Stan Corbett, who was a 25-year-old, that's the guy they wanted. But Corbett got injured and was unable to play. And sadly, Corbett never got another shot at the major leagues. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, it was kind of sad lining. Cletus Boots Poffenberger got the call instead, and he shined right from the start in Motown. Boots told the Sporting News before his first game, and I quote, he had never seen a major league park before joining the Tigers a few days before.
All right, so that would be very exciting for Boots, coming out of the woods, cutting down trees for the highways, going to, I forget where he said after that, but just
Beaumont,
Texas, and then, here he is in the big leagues.
And Boots has some balls, because he walks into the Tigers clubhouse and he immediately stands up in front of all of his teammates. Remember, this guy's 21. And he says, and I quote, "Just call me Boots and on time for meals. I'm here to stay. I'm just a young punk from a small town. I don't know what the hell it's all about. But boy, can I blow that apple in there. And when I get smartened up a bit, I'll give those batters plenty to worry about."
Okay, that's the elongated version of call me whatever you like, just not late for dinner.
Yeah, and I'm good. And everyone's like Hank Greenberg and like Goose Gosling are like, what the fuck? Like,
who the fuck's this guy? You said his name's Boots?
Exactly. So the good news is he backs up those words immediately. Though he didn't come in as a starter in the major leagues. On June 11th, 1937, the Tigers had gotten hot to start June, and they were on the heels of the first place Yankees. They started a series against the Red Sox and their ace Lefty Grove. The Red Sox got out to an early lead before the Tigers got back into the game. It was 4-2 in the third when Del Baker summoned Boots from the bullpen with the bases loaded and just one out. Boots' sinker got the job done, inducing a double play, and the Tigers batters scored 3 runs in the bottom of the inning to take the lead. Boots finished the game pitching 6 2/3 innings of 1-run ball, and the Tigers won the game 6-5. Newspapers, hailed him after the game, but they didn't call him Boots. Instead, the newspaper reporters of the day decided to call him the Baron because they thought Cletus Poffenberger sounded rather regal.
All right. It's very disrespectful, but...
He's the Baron. He's the Baron in the newspaper, and he's Boots to his teammate and to himself. His next appearance came in front of family and friends who made the 75-mile trip from Williamsport to Washington, D.C. Boots came in the 9th inning of a tie game on June 15th. The game would go 15 innings. Poffenberger held the Senators scoreless until the Tigers could plate a run and then finished off the game to win his second MLB game. Boots went back home at some point. I don't know if this was directly after, if he just went with his family back home, but the team went to Philadelphia and it rained the next day. And at some point Boots just goes, well, I'm just going to go for a visit, and just goes, doesn't tell his manager. So Mickey Cochran, remember, he's the player manager, but he was out with a head injury, but he's back at this point. And Charlie Gehringer recalls the story to the Baltimore Sun decades later. Mickey Cochran aggressively confronted the young pitcher. "I want to know your whereabouts." Boots looked up at Cochran from one of those little stools we used to sit on in the dressing rooms. We all listened for his answer. Then Boots, after a long wait, replied, "I refuse to reveal my identity." It was so funny that even Cochran had a laugh. So he's disarming. He's kind of a flake, but super boyish and disarming and innocent at the same time, which gives him a lot of rope early in his career, let's just say.
It's just Boots. He's just crazy.
Well, one of my favorite things is if anybody this reminded me of when I was writing about him, it was Manny Ramirez, because there's so many times where people are like, that's just Boots being Boots, like just like Manny being Manny, you know what I mean? Like he was just a weird dude, but when he's good, nobody cares. But
yeah, I mean, I'm divulging away from not divulging. Anyway, I'm diverting. That's what I'm looking for. I'm diverting from the topic of baseball, but the immediate thought that came to my head was Dennis Rodman.
Sure, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a perfectly good one. 100%. Boots continues to impress as a fireman coming out of the bullpen. His next appearance came after Roxy Lawson gave up 5 runs while only securing 1 out in the first inning. Boots pitched 7 2/3 innings of 1-run ball, allowing the Tigers to tie up the game for a moment, but that 1 run he gave up would earn him his first major league loss. After his first 3 outings in the big leagues, Boots Poffenberger had a .87 ERA. Just phenomenal.
Just dynamite.
He's the talk of Detroit.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, this kid, he was 9-1 or whatever in the Texas League, and now he's just absolutely crushing it up here. And he's not even 20.
Well,
not even 22.
I'm very impressed.
You should be.
Yeah.
You should be. This is where things start going downhill.
Okay.
he gets the start on his birthday, July 1st. He doesn't make it out of the 3rd inning. And in fact, all of his July outings kind of sucked, except he has one great game. He throws a complete game and he defeats Bob Feller, right? So that's 2 aces that he's bested. And despite not great numbers, the Tigers' strong offense got him to a 6-2 record at the end of August, even though his minuscule ERA had expanded to 4.61 at this point.
Okay, yeah. So he must have had some bad stretches there.
Yeah, but he keeps giving up 4 or 5 runs, but as we know from the Hammer and Hank episode, the Tigers are a great offense, so yes. they score 6 or 7 runs a lot. Mm-hmm. His dominance on the hill cooled off fast, but his personality off the field kept him in the headlines. Bud Schaefer, a writer for the Detroit Times, penned a column on Poffenberger saying, and I quote, "He's a 3-ring circus," alluding to Boots' peculiar habits, which he said included talking in his sleep, carrying good luck charms all over his person, sleeping through team meetings, talking with the fans in the bleachers, and then going on buying sprees. But my absolute favorite, just completely weird one, is he will not go near telephones.
Okay, yeah, that's a little peculiar, because I was going to comment that the other ones don't seem that peculiar, at least for baseball players.
No, he's talking in his sleep. Like, what's he supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
Good luck charms and gabbing with fans, that's pretty par for the course.
Yeah.
Spending all his money. He's a poor kid that, all of a sudden has money. So, but yeah, he won't talk on the phone, won't touch a telephone. And his longtime friend, Lacko Anderson, confirmed this. He quoting him by saying, "I never seen him use a telephone." And his stepson even claimed the same, saying, and I quote, "He'd let it ring, or he'd just get up and walk away."
Oh, there's a signal coming in on that device. I'm out of here.
So he's a wacky dude. He's pretty wacky. He marries his wife, Jo, and, they get married in July and then immediately break up in September and then get back together in the off season. So very tumultuous love-hate relationship. And the Tigers also developed a pretty big love-hate relationship with their young star.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically unserious about his career. And his first year with the Tigers, allegations against him included he was once found leading a swing band at 4 a.m. on a day that he was due to pitch. That he got drunk before a game at Yankee Stadium that he was supposed to pitch, and that he consistently pushed back against pitching against the Browns and Athletics, preferring opposition of top-ranking clubs. And remember, he's a rookie that's gotten called up halfway through the year.
He is ballsy. You said he was ballsy.
He's super ballsy.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about Boots was Boots loved to sleep.
Okay.
Like you heard sleeping through team meetings.
Yeah.
Apparently he circumvented the team's awake by 9:30 a.m. rule by waking up for breakfast, eating a bunch, and then going back to bed until an hour before the game started.
He's like my son.
100%. So, despite his early success, he finishes the season with a 4.65 ERA, and the Tigers finished 13 games behind the Yankees, their second place finish. Despite the ERA and some really bad underlying stats, like his WHIP is 1.65. He's not great.
Yeah.
He puts up a 10-5 record, which counting stats wise is pretty darn good. But
yeah.
It's 1937, so nobody's looking at his WHIP or his FIP or anything else other than his 10-5 record. So Wheaties comes calling.
All right. The cereal.
Like the breakfast cereal.
Yeah. Which he eats a lot of before he goes back to sleep.
Kinda.
I assume.
We'll get to that. So his wife negotiates a fee that's $50 more than what Bob Feller got. And the ad for Wheaties featuring Poffenberger read, and I quote, "Spectacular young Tigers pitcher Boots Poffenberger is out to beat his 1937 record. The Baron is one of a whole flock of Wheaties-eating Bengals. He says, you'd be surprised how many Tigers put him away every morning."
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, Boots being Boots, though, he's doing the Wheaties tour and, doing stuff. And part of that is being on radio. And on a live radio broadcast to promote Wheaties, he was asked what he was going to have for breakfast. And apparently he told them a beer and a steak.
What a dummy. So Brock Lesnar did.
Sure. I'm unfamiliar with that story.
Well, Brock Lesnar was I believe he won a UFC fight.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not a mixed martial arts fan by any means, but he won he won a mixed martial arts fight, and the event was sponsored by Bud Light. And then after the post-fight interview, he said, "The first thing I'm going to do is go home and drink a Coors Light," which are both not great beers, but anyway.
Sure.
I'm digressing.
Two loons.
Yeah.
So very much Lesnar did in his sense.
Yeah.
Apparently he got paid the night before, so he did not give a fuck.
Well, okay. At least he was smart about that.
Sure. Yeah, I could give him some credit there. The next spring, he held out for more money. Remember, once again, he's a rookie. He didn't even play the whole season, and he's already like being cocky. An article ran in the Sporting News on February 10th proclaiming, and I quote, "Boots Poffenberger decides to be good to be better. If I can win 10 staying up at night, what can I do in shape?" he asks.
So he's being very outward about the fact that he's not in shape at all. He's not looking after himself. He's not working out. He's not practicing.
he was incredibly open about. That was the best part about writing this. He's like, yeah, I drink a lot. You're like, wow, you shouldn't say that to the newspaper.
Yeah. You're a bad negotiator.
Yeah. And this is all bluster. Like his idea of an off-season workout was going bowling or playing billiards. That was his big. I'm getting in shape. Gonna go shoot some pool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fun.
Sure. So he does not stay in shape, and he's out drinking regularly in the early part of the 1938 season. Once again. His season starts great. He's relegated to the bullpen to start, but when he gets a chance to get on the hill to start the games in late April, he pitches 4 complete games in his first 5 starts.
All right, he must have played a lot of pool and bowling in the off season.
Sure. The season progresses, and just like the last one, Boots gets worse and worse, and his habits became more and more magnified. Mickey Cochran imposes a curfew on the team, likely because of Boots, and of course, Boots is the first one to break the curfew.
Yeah,
he's fined, he's threatened with demotion, and Detroit even went as far as hiring a private detective to follow Boots. When this was revealed to Boots by Tiger owner Walter Briggs, Boots told Briggs he should just have given him the money. And I quote, all they'd have to do was go to the beer joint closest to the ballpark.
I mean, he's probably not wrong. The evidence points in that direction.
Once again, completely just like, yeah, why'd you hire him? I'm drinking, man. Yeah, you can find me drinking. It's simple. So despite his petulance, he can also be very contrite and once again, like very innocent, very able to kind of say the right thing and tell you everything. Charles P. Ward of the Detroit Free Press wrote of Boots, and I quote, Boots will tell how he promised to be a better boy and how he stepped out of the office and promptly forgot those promises. Poffy is not to be blamed for forgetting. That is the guy that nature made him. Poffy didn't have any say in the matter.
Well, I guess that is true. He's never changed. He's never changed character. He's been
100%.
He's been the same the whole time.
Yeah. So at the end of May, he's got a 2.57 ERA. But by the end of July, his ERA is once again at 4.63. After giving up 5 earned runs in 4 innings against the terrible Philadelphia Athletics, who Boots was like, I don't want to pitch against them because they suck, Boots is sent down to Toledo. He stays out of trouble in Toledo, and he's recalled mid-September. He didn't allow a run in his first 2 appearances back with the big club, but finished the season giving up 10 runs in his last 15 innings on the bump for the Tigers. Those would be his last for the Tigers.
Okay.
But he comes back with them, and this is one of my favorite things. This is a huge one. Anyways, I'll get to this. This next few paragraphs are some of my favorite. So spring training was peak Boots Poffenberger. Bertie Tebbetts, a catcher for the team, would tell a story to the Baltimore Sun decades later. And I quote, in 1939, Boots was late coming to training camp, and when he arrived, I asked him where he'd been. He mentioned he just got out of jail for a speeding ticket in South Carolina. The judge sentenced him to either a $25 fine or 5 days in jail. He took the jail time because he didn't have any money. I told him he should have just called the club and have him wired. I told him he should have wired the club. Like, why didn't you just call the club and ask for $25?
Yeah.
It's almost the equivalent of being like getting a $500 fine these days and being like, no, I'll just do the jail time. So he's late.
Yeah.
And of course, later on, too, Boots denies all of these things. When he's interviewed later in his life, he's like, no, never happened. That's a lie. Didn't do that. Everyone's like, your teammates told us, like multiple teammates.
Yeah, we've corroborated this story.
But he doubles down. He says to the Baltimore Sun, never happened. I haven't driven a car in my life. Which,
all right.
Okay. The same spring training, the Tigers this time were the ones like, hey, you got to get into better shape. Remember early on, he was like 175-ish. Well, now he's 5'10", about 200, 205. Bigger boy.
Yeah.
And they're like, you got to get into better shape. But Boots couldn't do it. I should also mention the press started telling or comparing his resemblance to portly comedian and podcast alum Lou Costello.
Okay. I'm getting a good visual.
Yeah. So Boots never sheds the pounds. And he claims getting in shape was too hard, not because of the discipline it takes, but because of the early mornings during spring training. An article the next season said, and I quote, Boots Poffenberger says he is overweight because the Tigers made him get up too early. Instead of letting him snooze, the Baron pointed out, they rolled him out at 8 a.m. He had to eat breakfast, luncheon, and dinner. Boots laid out his logic, proclaiming that if the Tigers had allowed him to sleep until 1 p.m., he would only require one meal per day.
I see where he's coming from, I guess. Makes absolutely no sense, but...
And your drinking has nothing to do with this, sir?
No.
It's eating 3 solid meals. This is why I'm out of shape.
Yeah.
Who does that and stays in shape? So this is peak Poffenberger. And the Tigers are like, fuck this, okay? You know what? It's only been 2 seasons. We're not doing a third. And on April 1st, 1939, Poffenberger was sent to the Dodgers.
Okay.
Leo DeRocher proclaimed he could handle the notorious Poffenberger, which I'm sure he thought he could, considering he had Van Lingle Mungo on his team. But Ed could not. On the team's very first road trip, they stayed at the Bellevue Stratford Hotel, which had a large clock on the wall behind the front desk, surrounded by smaller clocks with the international time. So, like, you know, when you see it's like Tokyo and LA and London and all of that.
Very confusing. Very confusing for a man with a 7th grade education.
Yeah, and a midnight curfew as well. So he gets back to the hotel 30 minutes past curfew, and he walks right past DeRocher, who seemed in the lobby. The next day, DeRocher confronted Boots, who had claimed he had, in fact, returned at 11 p.m. I was right there, growled DeRocher, and the clock in the lobby said 12:30. Maybe, shrugged Boots. Maybe the clock you looked at said that, but the one of them, that little clock said 11, and that was the one that I went by.
Sound argument.
It's good.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Sure. So it doesn't work out on the Dodgers either. He pitches just 5 innings for the Dodgers. He disappears one night in Cincinnati. Team can't find him. And then they suspend him for a whole month and demote him to Montreal, which not a great idea. Don't send a drunk to Montreal. But
no.
Boots decides he's had enough, and at, I believe, not like before even 24 years old, he announces his retirement. The Dodgers are like, okay, and they petition Commissioner Landis to put him on the banned players list, so he can't just jump to another team.
Right.
This doesn't last long, though, as the Dodgers find a taker for the problematic young pitcher. And Boots was reinstated, and the Dodgers sold Boots' contract to the Nashville Volunteers of the Southern Association.
All right. So we've come back
Full circle.
Full circle.
And once, like, maybe he's learned his lesson briefly, but Foles skipper Larry Gilbert had a reputation for handling troublemakers. He showed Boots kindness and generosity right from the start. Boots' spending habits had not stopped in 1939, despite his MLB paychecks definitely stopping. Larry personally lent Boots money to replenish his wardrobe, bring his wife to Nashville, and to secure housing during the season. That season, Boots never missed a start and never got in trouble. He pitched 238 innings and won 26 games, despite a 4.58 ERA. And the Vols went 101-47 in 1940 and made it all the way to the Dixie World Series, where they beat Houston of the Texas League 4-1. Boots picked up 3 more victories during the Vols' playoff run. So that's the year that he wins 29 games.
Okay.
And
so he's turned it around a bit. I know it's like a lower tiered league, but he's on track, it seems like, a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. He's like, I won 29 games. I'm going to get a call. Somebody's going to want me. And nobody wants him. So he's dejected, and basically he goes to spring training, and they're like, you're going back to the Vols, and he's like, oh, God damn it. And so he's like, you know what I'm going to do about it? I'm going to drink.
Sounds like Boots' repertoire.
Yeah. And he mixes in some pitching with his drinking as well. And those two activities collided on a ladies' night at Sulphur Dell in what Nashville baseball historian Bill Troffber referred to as, and I quote, the incident that destroyed his baseball career.
All right. I'm excited to hear about this.
Once again, he's fine. Like, he's winning games despite a mediocre ERA and a high whip. He's 7-2 and has pitched over 100 innings. It looked like he was leading the Vols to another championship, but on June 24th, 1941, Boots took the mound against the New Orleans Pelicans, completely sauced. Raymond Johnson of the Nashville Tennessean reported, and I quote, from the start of the game, Poffenberger didn't act natural on the mound. He started popping off when Pat Ankerman, Pell leadoff man, walked towards the plate in the first inning. He fussed and fumed on every pitch that Hoffman called a ball, regardless of where it was. Twice while he was maneuvering around the mound, Poffenberger nearly fell down. Once he started his windup, the ball flopped out of his hand towards second base. On several occasions, he let the return throw from the catcher, Hank Helf, hit his glove and drop to the ground.
So he's fucked up.
He's so drunk.
Yeah.
Like, mid-windup, just dropping the ball and, like, just...
he sounds like some of the guys that, play in my softball league by the time they get to the third game of the tournament at the end of the year.
Yeah. He's been tying one on for a long time.
Yeah.
And trying to pitch. In the fifth inning, umpire Dutch Hoffman called 4 straight balls, sending Pelicans batter Tom Winsett to first base, and Poffenberger fucking lost it. He stumbles towards home plate, shouting profanities at Hoffman. Remember, it's Ladies' Day or whatever in 1940, or 41, I should say, and he's just screaming surly swear words at the umpire, and the umpire's had enough. He ejects the pitcher.
Uh-huh.
Poffenberger reacts to this by winding up and throwing the baseball right into Hoffman's chest.
Oh, better in his face, I guess.
Yeah. Well, luckily the umpire is wearing chest protection.
Uh-huh.
And Poffenberger also throws his glove into the screen behind home plate and walks off the field. This is his final game in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
So the umpire is unhurt, as I mentioned. But the rules stated that striking an umpire would result in a suspension of no less than 90 days. and that was the suspension that Boots got. A hungover Boots Poffenberger gave an interview to the Tennessean the next day, once again completely open about the whole situation. He apologized to his coach and his teammates and the fans. He seemed remorseful and resigned to the fact that his time with the Vols was over. He also admitted that this wasn't his first game where he'd been drinking. And I quote, "I've been drinking too much all year. I knew it. I'd done pretty good in my last 3 starts. Nobody knew I was drinking when I pitched those games. I had a few Tom Collins before I went out, and they seemed to help me. I thought I'd do the same thing this time. I don't know what happened. They just snuck up on me."
Normally I can, keep her at a 6 out of 10, but I turned her up to a 9 by accident this time. They just snuck up on me.
100%. Poffenberger, in the same interview, went into detail about how much debt he was in and how he had nearly quit baseball after he'd learned he was going to head back to Nashville instead of the big leagues. And I quote, "When I get to thinking about those things and wondering if I'd ever get a chance at big money again, I'd get mad at myself and I'd go drinking. I know that's a lousy way to look at things, but I did."
So he has a problem, and he knows, he knows he has a problem, but he's doing nothing about it.
Yeah, and this is the best. This is the best part. He finishes off by saying, and I quote, "I'm not through with baseball. I may be through with organized ball. I know I am this year, but I might get reinstated. I'm going to go up to Washington and pitch for a brewery team."
All right. I mean, seems like a perfect spot for old Bootsy.
100%. So he also claims he's going to get back into shape as well, which, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I guess
I'm gonna sleep more and get in shape. I mean, he would sleep more.
Sure. 100%.
I mean, if he's drinking more, he's probably sleeping more. So
instead of the Northwest, though, Poffenberger stayed in the South, and he'd pitch for the Bona Allen Shoemakers of Buford, Georgia, one of the top semi-pro teams in the country. Boots led the team to the championship game in the Denver Post semi-pro tournament. They faced the Negro League Ethiopian Clowns, and Boots was outdueled by Roosevelt Davis in a game described as one of the best in the tournament history, with the Clowns coming out on top, which is super cool. If you haven't heard of the Denver Post semi-pro tournament, which I definitely had not before this episode, it was obviously Denver was not the South, and it allowed black teams to play against white teams, and I believe this is where a lot of black players got discovered by white audiences, which was super cool to read about.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And I am unfamiliar.
Yeah, no, I read maybe, a few pages about it, but I know Satchel Paige pitches in it. I know a bunch of black teams win it throughout the 30s and give a lot of credit to black baseball. Beating white teams obviously is a big deal. And this Denver Post tournament, gave them a lot of them a platform to make a name for themselves. On December 6th, 1941, Nashville sold Poffenberger's contract to the San Diego Padres of the Pacific Coast League. Definitely the most important thing that happened that week. You get the reference?
No, I missed the date.
December 6th, 1941.
Oh, no, I know what you're saying now. Remember Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, that is the next day.
Yeah.
He had a mediocre year for the Padres, who won 91 games, but also the PCL played 178 games. So winning 91 games is a lot less impressive when you play 16 more games than a 162 season.
Right, you're barely 500.
Yeah, you're like 4 games above or something like that. Padres infielder Mel Skelly called Boots, and I quote, "The best roommate I ever had. When we were on the road, he'd spend everything he had the first couple of nights, and then he'd have nothing. Guys were always borrowing your stuff, but he never would touch anything of mine. He'd never make a noise, any noise coming in late at night." So he's a drinker, but he doesn't touch your shit, and he comes in quietly at least. So, he's a good roommate.
Yeah.
As noted, World War II, that's happening. And in 1943, at the age of 27, he joins the Marines. The Marines decide they'd rather have him throwing baseball than grenades on Tarawa, and Boots was assigned to the Paris Island baseball team before finishing the war pitching for the Fleet Marine Force in Hawaii in 1945. One thing I should add, all of this, that despite Poffenberger's shortcomings, he was generous and liked by everyone he crosses paths with, just other than that umpire he hit with the baseball.
He sounds like a fun guy, kind of.
Sure.
But he probably gets a little excessive at times, but yeah. Anyway,
he's leading bands and he's a good time drunk. Mm-hmm. He's not stealing shit. He's quiet when you're sleeping. He's generally a good guy, and when he goes on leave from the Marines, he walks into town wearing just socks. That was another weird thing that you're like, he always just wore socks.
That's ironic. That's ironic with his name being Boots.
I didn't even think about that, but he gets like an off day or two. And he goes back home, and he spends the entire day on the ball diamond playing with local kids and buying them soda pops for catching pop-ups that he hits to them. Like, he genuinely loves baseball and is very generous with his time, which he doesn't have. He has got lots of it, but he's on leave for a very short time, and he spends most of his time, playing with kids, which is kind of cool. He returns to the Padres after the war in 1946. He puts up a 3.86 ERA in 70 innings, but of course he clashes with his manager Pepper Martin and left the team without informing his skipper once again. He tries to return, but the Padres cut him loose. He had burned all of his bridges in the AL, the NL, the SA, and now the PCL. So
it's too bad.
He is out of options.
Yeah.
He returns home and he signs with the Hagersville Owls of the Class B Interstate League for 1947, only 8 miles away from his hometown. He also abandons them without notice, but they don't care. They got a major leaguer on their team, so they're like, "Yeah, come on back anytime, Boots." He's like, "I will. I've just been drinking." His time in baseball was basically done. So was his marriage. Willard Elwood Poffenberger was basically back to where he started. Boots returned to the Owls for the final 3 weeks of the 1948 season, but this time mainly as a pinch hitter.
Hold on. Willard?
What? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I thought his name was Cletus.
Why did I write Willard?
I'm
so sorry. Good catch. Yeah, Cletus Elwood Poffenberger was back to where he started. Boots returned to the Owls for the final 3 weeks of the 1948 season, but this time mainly as a pinch hitter. He gave it a go on the mound the next year, but a sore arm in the spring that didn't get better forced him to retire from pro baseball in May 1949. He lived in Williamsport and even played for and managed the Williamsport Wildcats while working sporadically at the Fairchild Aircraft Plant in Hagersville. He went on to work at the Mack Truck Factory in Hagersville as well, and eventually got remarried. Despite his constant boozing and lots of time in bed, Boots Poffenberger lived until 84 before succumbing to prostate cancer on September 1st, 1999. And that is the story of a very eccentric pitcher who played not even 2 years in the MLB.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing story. I'm glad you caught yourself there again because, you know, I was ready to accept that he passed away at 48, but I'm very impressed that he managed to make it to 84, and really didn't pass away all that long ago. Really,
No,
it didn't sound like this guy was going to make it to any point that you and I were alive, but obviously he did.
He did, and it's wild, what he accomplished, but also like he probably could have been so much better.
Yeah, by the sounds of things, he could have been so much better because he had a lot of success when he had his success, but he just lived a life of excess and was unable to keep it together for a lot of the time.
No, and obviously, I don't know if it was, being a child of the Depression, but, obviously people drank more. When he got money, he spent it right away. His mom was a bit of a party animal by the sounds of it. And he claims he didn't have any regrets. He was like, I was the king of Detroit for like 2 years. And it's like, yeah, but you could have been the king of Detroit for like 10 if you just woken up and like ran around the field a few times instead of drinking all night.
Like you said, he by the sounds of things, he didn't really have, a strong example to live up to in his younger days. So, it was very easy for him to stray from the path when, he came into some money and, like you said, people, I feel like, drank a little bit more back then. It was more accepted and more readily available. So, it's not that surprising.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how some of these guys did it, R.I.P. Wade Boggs, but
yeah. He's very much alive.
Wade Boggs is alive.
He's very much alive. God rest his soul.
I started, as you can guess, I started reading about Poffenberger during the Salford Dell episode, and saved that one story of him beaming the umpire for the next episode. I was like, all right, I already had him on the list, and then I, reading that incident and looking into him, I was like, this dude's perfect. Three parts of 3 MLB seasons, but like was just all over the newspapers for half a decade. He's exactly why we do this. Mm-hmm. Exactly why we do this.
Yeah.
And his name was Boots Poffenberger. So
yeah,
it was perfect.
Like you say, immediately into the crazy names Hall of Fame of baseball players. But yeah, Sean, thanks for bringing that story. Like you said, it fits right into our wheelhouse, and I'm glad to have learned about Boots.
Bootsy. Yeah. Well, I was happy to do it. Excited for your next story. Until then, where can people find us?
People can find us on the internet at Doing Baseball or at doing.baseball, as I said off the top there. If you're looking for us around the internet, you can find us at one of those 2 handles. It'll lead you in the right direction, and say hi, chime in, give us a story idea, join some conversation, and we'd love to hear from you. And yeah,
we would. Yeah, give us a review, give us a rating, all of that. Give us a follow. Tell your friends. And grab yourself a 2 loons. And until next time, I'm Sean.
And I'm Eds.
And we were doing the baseball.
Okay. Bye.